Hello there and welcome to my channel. My name is Tio. I'm a second year student in the Master of Advanced International Studies program at the Diplomatic Academy of Vienna. The Diplomatische Akademie Wien is officially known in English as the Vienna School of International Studies, or in French as the École des Hautes Études Internationales de Vienne, but unofficially known as the Diplomatic Academy of Vienna, or short, the DA. In this video, I'll walk you through the entire application process to the DA step by step. This is going to be valid specifically for the MAIS program and the ETIA program. The MAIS program is the one I'm in, the Master of Advanced International Studies, and the ETIA program is a cooperation program between the Diplomatic Academy and the TU, the Technische Universität Wien, and it's a Master of Science in Environmental Technology and International Affairs. Whichever one you choose out of these two based on your interests, the application process is quite similar. It's different from the one for the Diploma program. That one is a one-year program and it has different criteria and exams as well. I'll cover that in a future video about which program to choose at the DA, but for now we'll stick to this application process valid for the MAIS and the ETIA program. Also, don't be steered away from the ETIA program. Please consider it even if you don't have a background in technology or mathematics or engineering or something of that sort. Second year at the Technical University of Vienna is designed in such a way that you'll catch up on the math in the first couple of weeks and then go on to do more advanced environmental stuff. Also, if you decide to apply for MAIS, you have the option after the first year to switch to the ETIA program if you so choose to, and if you realize that it's something that actually interests you after talking to your colleagues. So there's a bit of flexibility there, you don't have to stress about it too much. Now what I've got here is the welcome package from this year. It says educating global leaders since 1754. Now not many institutions can claim that. Hashtag diplomacy matters, and the logo and a nice picture. So if you want to get one of these at the beginning of next year, you better start the application process sooner rather than later. So let's jump right into it. Make sure to like this video, it really helps a lot to get this video seen by more people. Alright, so I'll be following the application process step by step as is listed on the website. I'll leave this link in the description so that you can follow with me too. Also, I'll mention every time where there's a slight difference between the MAIS and the ETIA application process. Starting right off with the application deadline. The application deadline for an early decision for the MAIS program is the 15th of January. This means that you'll get the result of your application by mid or late March already. There's also the regular application deadline, which is the 1st of March 2022. And this is a point where ETIA differs. There's only one application deadline, which is the 15th of March 2022. There's no early decision for ETIA apparently. What I really advise you to do, and what I did myself as well, is to apply by the early decision deadline. So by the 15th of January, you should already have your documents prepared and sent to the DA. This way you make sure you have all the best chances to get in, because by the 1st of March, by the second regular decision deadline, early decisions will already have been made. So by applying by the 1st of March, you actually deprive yourself of some extra chances to get in. And considering we've still got about 2 months until then, there's plenty of time to make your application until the 5th of January. So that's the most logical thing to do. Now, before we get into the admissions process per se, I'll mention two eligibility criteria. First of all, both of these are master's programs, so it's required of you to have a university degree in any discipline beforehand, a minimum of 180 ECTS, but if you've got a degree, then it's fine, you've got those points. With a little caveat to that, because in the application tab it says that candidates who have not yet finished their university or college studies at the time of application may submit their diploma by the 31st of July 2021. So if you're now in your final year of university, that's fine, you can still apply to the DA and you'll be eligible. However, if you don't manage to get your degree by the 31st of July, or if bureaucracy really gets in the way until registration week, then you'll lose your place. But this won't happen because you'll definitely get your degree, right? The second eligibility criteria is a great command of English. Now, this can be proven by sitting an exam like the CAE with grade A is required, the CPE with any grade, the IELTS, the academic module of course, and the minimum grade for that is 7.0, or the TOEFL with minimum marks of 627 points in the paper test, 263 points in the computer test or 106 points in the internet test. Additionally, it says here that candidates may also be required to sit a written exam or be invited to a personal interview for the MAIS program. Now, I've never heard of that. None of my colleagues from my year had to sit a written exam or sit an interview. So what this means is that your written application is the most important part of the application. It's not going to be another step in the application, and that's why you have to make it as good as possible. Alright, first things first, you need to register online. You make the online application, you fill in all your details. This is not very difficult at all. Just an online personal data form that you fill in so that they know that you'll be sending all the other documents and that they have an idea how many people are applying. Now, adjacent to this online application form, you also have to submit your CV, which you'll also have to send by post later with the rest of the application documents. So the CV is quite an important part. At the beginning of the first year in a career session, we had an event where we talked about applications and CVs, and someone from the DA came and said that we got in not because of our CVs, but despite our CVs. So in order for your CV to be as good as possible, it has to be concise, easy to read, and designed very simply. We don't need any fancy designs, any fancy colors, any fancy pictures and icons. All you need is one page containing your education, your work experience, your skills, especially linguistic skills are very important, and your extracurricular activities. Now, ever since that careers session at the beginning of my first year, I've been using one single CV format, which I'm very happy to send you to. I'll leave a link in the description below and you can access it. You'll have to leave your email and I'll send you a copy of my CV template, which you should then fill in with your own details, with your own information, your own education, experience, skills, and extracurriculars. So make sure to check out the link in the description for the CV template, and let's move on to the documents that you have to submit by post physically. Alright, so after you filled in the online application form and submitted your CV adjacent to that, what I advise you to do is print out a copy of your CV and put it in a file like this. Label it Diplomatic Academy application and you're good to go. You have it on your desk and you know that each and every document that you gather and are able to get, you put it in here, and at the end you'll just take all the documents from here, put them in an envelope and send them by post to the Diplomatic Academy of Vienna. As you can probably tell, I like to have my documents neat and tidy and organized so that I always know where they are and what I've got and what I haven't got. So it's a good practice that you can implement too. If you intend to apply for the ETIA program, you can go on and print out 2 copies of your CV, because apparently all the documents for the ETIA application have to be sent in a double set, except for the recommendation letters. MAIS applicants only have to send 1 set because the entire master is happening at the same institution, at the Diplomatic Academy of Vienna, but for the ETIA program the second set is needed so that they can register candidates who have been admitted to the ETIA program simultaneously as students of the Technische Universität Wien. So from now on, whenever I mention a new document, MAIS applicants should have 1 copy and ETIA applicants should have 2 copies. Except for the recommendation letters, of course, but we'll get to that in a little bit. The next document on the list for both programs is the motivation letter. Now, the motivation letter is, in my eyes, the most important part of any application process, but perhaps especially the DA. I have the feeling that the Admissions Commission, especially for MAIS, but also for ETIA, they're looking for profiles as diverse as possible. And they want to have a good mix of people from both humanities and the social sciences and the natural sciences as well. For this reason, not only I encourage you to apply whichever background you have, as long as you're interested in international affairs and environmental technology if you're applying for ETIA, but also I encourage you to show that in your motivation letter. Because the most important thing is how you're able to make the connection between your subject and your previous interests and your future studies. MAIS and ETIA do kind of the same courses in the first year, and the core courses combine international law, economics, both macro and microeconomics, political science, which was my personal favorite, and history. Now, if I were you, what I would do is I would sit down, and create a mind map. I would put my own subject in the middle. For me, it was modern and medieval languages, German and Spanish, although I focused quite a lot on German history, and that was my link. And then I would put all of these core subjects of the MAIS and ETIA programs around it. So you've got law, economics, political science, and history. After doing that, I would fill in the blank spaces on the page with terms or concepts or ideas, topics, which might link your own subject to one or more of these 4 subjects. After you've done that, you'll of course have more links with some of them than with the others. And that's totally fine. You can choose to focus in your second year on whatever you like. You can choose a professor for your thesis to supervise your thesis from the subject that you're closest to. You can of course also convert and do something totally different, but even if you're going to convert later, what I suggest you to do is to emphasize in your motivation letter what the links between your subject and the new subjects are. So if you did law before, or if you did economics before, you can look here at the course list for, it's still listed for 2020-2021, but soon they'll update that to the 2021-22 course list. You can take the course list, you can have a look through the course names and content. You should actually do that, that's what I did. And you should actually pick the ones you're most interested in and talk about those. Talk about how they're linked to your previous studies. How your previous studies help you perform in your new studies, and how your new studies are going to help you develop as a person, develop intellectually and in your career path. That's what they want to see. And for me, a motivation letter has basically 4 parts. The first one where I announce that I would like to apply and exactly what course I want to apply for. Second paragraph, I would focus on what I studied before and what the subjects were there that are linked the most to the new masters that I'm applying for. Then the third paragraph would contain precisely the courses from the masters that I'm most interested in and how I link that to my own abilities, why I'm interested in that, what I think about that topic. And you can actually go into the content. You should do that. I talked about this in more detail in my video about how to write a good personal statement. I'll link it up here somewhere, and you can go and watch that. Of course, a motivation letter is different than a personal statement. That is the UK kind of system, but that information, in my view, is still valid for motivation letters in continental Europe as well. And if you can pull that off and make the motivation letter more analytical rather than descriptive, then it's surely going to be a winner, because it certainly shows your interest for the subject that you're going to be studying. And then of course the fourth paragraph, I would add something about my language skills and my personal social skills that help me be flexible in an international environment, which the Diplomatic Academy surely is. And then one more sentence about how the DA is going to help you tremendously in your future career, and that's for sure going to be like that if you're into international affairs. It's certainly going to be a step up in your career opportunities, because you're addressing it generally to the MAIS Admissions Commission or the ETIA Admissions Commission. You can then finish it off with faithfully yours and your own name. Print it out, 1 copy for MAIS, 2 copies for ETIA, sign it, and then you're done. You can add it to the file. The third point on the list is the proof of competence in English. Now, we talked about this before, but I want to make a few more remarks about this. First of all, don't worry if you haven't got your test results yet. Having the proof of competence in English as part of the application is certainly a plus in the application process. Your application looks better right from the start. But if not, don't worry, I've got a lot of colleagues who sent it before the registration week in September, or who hadn't sat an actual exam in English like the CAE, CPE, IELTS or TOEFL. If you don't have an exam, even if you studied English before at university or English literature, you'll have to take a weekly class on academic writing in English. Now, that's not the end of the world, and it's always good to brush up on your English writing skills for academic papers. But if you have the possibility, I really advise you to actually try to sit one of these exams. I sent my results to the IELTS exam. I find the IELTS academic section to be quite a straightforward exam to sit, and getting a minimum band of 7.0 is not actually that difficult, I find. So if you haven't scheduled an exam, then I advise you to do so for sometime in spring, so that You can have the results by summer maybe. If you've got one already, then make a copy of it or 2 copies of it for ETIA and put them to the file. And let's move on to the next document. Alright, the next thing you need to add to your file is the university or college diploma. If you've already got it, then add that to the file in a double copy for the ETIA program. If not, if you're in your final year of studies, you can of course send that to the administration by the 31st of July via email and then have the original copy on you upon registration. Next up for both programs is the transcript of grades. Now, you need to send them the transcript with all your grades from your university. I would say that this is to some extent important, but definitely not an eliminating factor. So really don't worry if you haven't got the best grades ever in your university degree. Of course, all of us, we had our favorite subjects where we got the best grades, and we also had subjects which we didn't really like, but we still passed the exam with a moderately good grade. But the point is not to have the best grades in all subjects. The point is to show that you have particular interests that you can use and spin them in order to be able to study international studies further successfully. Of course, whenever you mention a particular class you were interested in your motivation letter, it should be one that you had quite a good grade in your university years, because they're going to see that in the transcript. If it's something that you say you were really interested in but then didn't get such a good grade on it, then that doesn't look so good. So make sure that those match up and try to find the appropriate links between the international studies curriculum and the classes where you got the best grades. Next one up for the ETIA program, which is different from MAIS, this is not required for MAIS, is the high school diploma. I have no idea why it's required for ETIA, but double set, add it to the file. The next document is a copy or 2 copies of your passport. This is pretty straightforward. You can't come to Vienna unless you have a passport. If you're a citizen of the European Union or of one of the countries from the European Economic Community, then you can come to Vienna with your national ID, but the DA requires a copy of your passport in your application. So I would try to get a passport if you don't already have one before the application deadline. Next one up is a passport photo for both MAIS and ETIA. That is of course for the student ID, which I can actually also show you. To be honest, this ID saves my ass every time I have to get into Austria. It looks very official. Hope it focuses. Yeah, this is my student ID from the Diplomatic Academy, and this is the photo I sent them in my application form, and that's what they use it for. There's the logo of the Diplomatic Academy on the back, and it's gone. Right, so there's that. That's what they need a photo for, and I'm sure it has nothing to do with who gets in and who doesn't. Are they trying to ensure a good mix of different people and they're using the photos for that? I don't know. I don't think they do though. What I have the feeling they're doing though is what I mentioned before, that they're trying to ensure a mix of backgrounds, of academic backgrounds, as well as a mix of various nationalities. And that certainly creates a very international atmosphere on the corridors of the Diplomatic Academy. Now, if you thought this is getting too easy, now comes the tricky part. What you need further are 2 academic recommendation letters. Additionally, these must be either submitted by the referees, so by your professors, to the candidate, that's to you, in a sealed envelope, or submitted by the professors, by the referees, directly to the registrar of the DA by postal mail, so physically. Now I'll tell you what I did. You don't have to do like I did, but my option was to ask my professors, 2 of the professors who knew me best, and I specifically asked them to put the recommendation letter in a sealed envelope, sign over the sealed envelope, and one of the professors also stamped over the sealed envelope. So I never saw those recommendation letters. I have no idea what's in them. One of them told me that they only wrote stuff that recommends me because they thought I was completely able to do this, but I have no way of knowing what's in there, and I think that that's what they're trying to achieve. They're trying to make sure that you don't tamper yourself with documents, with the academic recommendation letter. So after getting those sealed and signed envelopes, I took a trip to Vienna Now, conveniently, I had more reasons to come to Vienna because my girlfriend was studying here for her bachelor as well. So I came to see her right before the start of my final academic year, and I personally went to the DA and gave them my recommendation letters. Now, I know this is a lot of effort for making sure that the recommendation letters get there and that they don't get lost in some DHL warehouse or something, but I had this trip planned to Vienna, so I just thought I'd bring them myself. Now, of course, what you can do is get the recommendation letters in the sealed envelope yourself and then send them to the DA via post. Or if you don't trust the post and you've had bad experiences, then spend a bit more money and send them via courier like DHL. So if you're in a country far away, I'd actually go with the DHL option, especially because overseas post, I don't know how reliable that is. And you don't want to be put in the position of asking your professors for signed recommendations again because the original letters were lost on the way. The second option would be to have the referees submit the recommendation letters to the registrar of the DA by postal mail themselves. But I don't really like this option because this gives more work to your professors, and when they're doing you a favor and writing your recommendation letter, you don't want to give them even more stuff to do on your behalf when you could be getting the sealed envelope and sending it yourself and making sure you send it with whatever company you want and have control over the way you send it so that you make sure it gets there. So sending them yourself is a win-win situation because it means less work to your professors and more certainty and security to you. Now, finally, if you're applying for a scholarship, which you should do in any case, especially for a 14,000 euros a year course. So in order to apply for the scholarship, you just have to fill in the scholarship form and send it to them signed by hand, no electronic signatures allowed. And it doesn't say whether this has to be in a double copy for ETIA, but I'm supposing it doesn't, but you can put 2 copies in there because why not? Let's make sure it's everything fine and in order. For MAIS, you're fine if you just send 1 copy. Scholarship is decided based on your academic background, on your grades, not necessarily on the income of your family or stuff like that. It's not an income assessed scholarship. So you may as well try your hand at it and see, maybe you get a discount. All of these documents, when you have your file ready and ready to be put in an envelope, you have to send to the Diplomatische Akademie Wien, namely to Jenny Chiarandon. She is the registrar, your go-to person in the DA administration right now. The address of the academy is Favoritenstrasse 15A. Postcode is 1040 1040, Vienna, Austria. 2 more things that are mentioned here. First of all, you shouldn't staple or bind your documents in any way. Just let them loose in the envelope. Also, don't put the entire folder that I was telling you about in the envelope. Just take the documents out of it and put them in an envelope because they specifically say they don't want the documents to be in a folder of any kind. It's just loose documents in an envelope because that's the easiest way for them to organize them later. Second thing, you should provide translations if you've got any documents that are in a different language than English, French, or German. There will be someone who will be able to read either French or German or English in the academy, but if you're sending in a different language, it's not so sure. So for example, if your high school diploma or your transcript of grades, if your college or university diploma is in a different language, then you're required to translate it at an authorized translator office and put that in the envelope next to a copy of the original documents. And of course, make sure not to send any original documents, just copies thereof. The originals, always keep them on you in a safe folder at home or wherever you go. Just keep them with you because you can always make copies of those. Also, my policy with any important documents is that I digitalize them and save them in my Google Drive. That's where I keep all my digitalized versions of my important documents so that in the case I lose any of the originals, I at least have something to show reference number and maybe be able to get another original back from the institution that issued it initially. But that's just a safety measure. To digitalize them, another safety measure is to always keep the originals with you and only send copies as part of your application. Alright, once you're ready to start your online application, then you just have to click on Start Application at the bottom of the page for either ETIA or MAIS. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, and to stay tuned to more DA content, then subscribe to my channel. I've got a few more videos planned, interviews with my fellow DA students about their experience at the university, and also a guide on how to decide which course to pick, going more in detail about MAIS ETIA and the DLG program. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this video was of some help to you. If you've got a friend who intends to apply as well, make sure to send them this video because they might benefit from it as well. And I wish you the best of luck with your application. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to check out the link in the description to get your hands on the CV template I was talking about. If you're wondering what to watch next and need more inspiration for applying to the DA, I recommend this video I made about a day in my life at the Diplomatic Academy last year, and this one about writing great personal statements, which has some more relevant tips for the motivation letter. I'll catch you in my next one.